Over the last 48 hours, Bitcoin has seen a massive reduction in volume and volatility. However, key structural levels and trends remain intact. Is Bitcoin preparing for a major move this week, or are we going to still see more sideways chop? Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everyone's having a fantastic weekend. In today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Bitcoin's short-term price action, specifically focusing on the key levels you need to be paying attention to moving into the upcoming week. We'll also be discussing directional continuations, the monthly candle, and Bitcoin dominance, as well as some other key technical levels you should be paying attention to. Before we do get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. It is the first link in the description down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop of cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. If you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us on VIP. We post trading setups with exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll also get access to our group chats, our general chat, trading chart, and education chat, help, daily video, news, and trade setup chat. If this is the kind of content you are interested in, join us by clicking my name in the pinned comment of the free channel, or click these links to find out more information. Without further ado, guys, let's dive in. Taking a brief look at the price action, guys, we can see Bitcoin did as what we were expecting on the short term. We expected a correction down to sweep those lows at 67,000 before we expect now a continuation through this range, a breakout of that downtrend and into the range high. So at the moment, while we are sitting above that monthly uptrend, which is represented by this uptrending diagonal trend line, spanning back from literally the start of May, we are technically expecting a directional continuation. However, we do not have any expressions of direct strength on the short term as we speak, but that can change. We're going to be talking about exactly what we're looking out for in today's video to signify we are going to see that swing up into that uptrend, up into that downtrend, and a potential breakout of that downtrend. We'll also be discussing the possibility for corrections through this range and potentially where Bitcoin could end up if those play out. We got so much to talk about, guys, but first and foremost, again, the price action really hasn't been doing too much, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is a time to turn off and look away. Sometimes when the price action is consolidating and the volatility reduces a significant amount, it's a time to plan, prepare, and get ready for those next moves in the market. So if we do take a look at the last 32 hours of price action, this is by far and large been the least volatile range of price action the last 32 hours we have seen for Bitcoin across the entirety of the last 2.5 to 3 months. So let's start on that market data before we get into today's video. So jumping over market data, 24-hour volume, 47% in the red, sitting at 66 billion. 24-hour liquidations, 65% in the red. Again, the volumes are so low right now. Volatility is basically dissipated. 44 million of the 44 million, 27 million coming from short positions, 17 million coming from long positions. Again, not much movement across the market. Moving over to the broader markets, the DXY is still sitting where it was a few days ago. Not too much movement. The market is currently closed right now. Again, guys, directional movement underneath this yearly uptrend will be bullish for the risk asset market, bullish for Bitcoin. A break upwards will be bearish for the risk asset market, bearish for Bitcoin. The directional continuation of the DXY is heavily intertwined with the upcoming economic data, specifically leading inflation data such as NFP and unemployment rate data on the 7th of June, which is in 5 days. We're looking at the upcoming inflation data on the 12th of June. And most importantly, we have got the Federal Reserve interest rate decision. And I would say even more importantly, the press conference where they're going to be discussing plans for the future. And as we know, the market is future seeing. So if we see any significant shifts in the perceived systematic risk in future periods, that can directly influence the direction of the market on the short to mid-term, moving into those potential narrative shifts. So pay attention to all of these events. Moving over to the broader markets, S&P 500 actually had a much better weekly close than what we were seeing. The weekly candle was looking pretty horrendous here, engulfing that prior green candle, but we actually managed to close above that level. So overall, actually looking pretty decent. For a directional continuation upwards, we do need to break above that prior high point to see that move into that price discovery and see that directional continuation. Again, for a directional continuation downwards, we're only worried about low closes underneath this $5,000 region on the weekly candle. A weekly candle below 5,000 would result in us entering a high time frame downtrend for the first time since around about August 2023. That'll be the first sign of weakness in the high time frame trend if we do break below this level. Until then, we are ranging. The same goes to the Dow Jones. I don't want to get into too much today. The Dow Jones, exactly the same. High level over here, range low over here, directional breakdown of range low enters a high time frame downtrend to fill that VRPV gap on the right hand side, resulting in a correction to our 2021 high points. Whereas if we remain above this level, we are expecting an eventual breakout through those highs and into price discovery. Overall, it is bullish while we are sitting above these supports. Let's go ahead, guys, and jump over to Bitcoin. A quick word from today's video sponsor before we do that. I'd like to introduce our partner, BitUnix. BitUnix is a global non-KYC, no country restriction exchange, making it a perfect exchange to trade on if you're from the USA, from Canada, the Netherlands, or just prefer to trade without KYC. This exchange is a futures and spot exchange with over 200 different trading pairs and some of the lowest fees in the game. If you sign up with my link down below, you'll get access to 15% off your trading fees, as well as an exclusive reward center where you can claim up to a multitude in USDT prizes. So go ahead and sign up with my link down below for 15% off, and I'll see you in there. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. So there are a few levels I really want to stress the significance of in today's video. And like we've said, yes, the price action hasn't done much, but the price action doesn't need to do much because the key levels we are paying attention to are going to be our diagonal trend lines, irrespective of where the price action is sitting between these levels. Whether or not the price action bounced all the way into this range high over here, or whether or not it stayed where it was as it did, it makes little to no difference in regards to the significance of the levels we're going to be discussing. So let's go ahead and talk about these levels. First and foremost, Bitcoin is in a monthly uptrend. The monthly uptrend, as we discussed, is represented by this uptrending diagonal trend line, which I've gone ahead and annotated, and you can see that we've retested this level now 3 times over the course of the last 32 days. This monthly uptrend is not only representing the overall uptrend for Bitcoin, but it is representing a possibility for the price action to continue at this trajectory, which will eventually result in a retest of the range high of the high time frame consolidation range. So it has the potential for that move. However, what we can see with that is we can see during the period of the last, we'll say about 10 days, Bitcoin has been traveling in a weekly downtrend. And with that weekly downtrend, we can also see the momentum has been decreasing. So this is both a sign of overall exhaustion and weakness in the price action. As we know, when we test support from a position of exhaustion and weakness, there is always going to be a risk for a correction lower. And we're going to be discussing just in a moment the possibility for the correction lower and what that would look like and where those bounce points will be for Bitcoin. But let's first talk about the bullish case scenario. So let's break it down and keep it really simple. If we take a look at a trend, the trend is simply the trajectory of price action. And while the price action remains above the trend, it is expected to be in a uptrend bullish, and when those uptrends break, we enter a downtrend. So we keep it nice and simple, TA 101 right there. So we look at this trend, eventually that trend is going to converge into that range high resistance. We know that our buy side liquidity is going to be the trigger point for a directional continuation through that range high and into our macro continuation, which is essentially price discovery. So we can say that provided the price action is able to sustain above this monthly uptrend, we are expecting an eventual breakout of the range high and continuation higher. Now, Bitcoin still does have a hurdle. That hurdle is going to be its current weekly downtrend. Bitcoin will need to break above its current weekly downtrend. We can confirm this. We have 2 points of retest. Both these points actually correspond to points on the RSI. Again, validating this as an important level of significance or a valid trend line. For us to see that continuation into the 70K region, into that range high and directional continuation through that range, we need to break above this current short-term weekly downtrend. So let's take a look at that short-term weekly downtrend. We are on the 4-hour chart. For us to actually see a breakout of that trend, remember, we need 3 things: strength, structure, and trend. We need 3 things. What are we looking for? Trend, structure, strength. So let's take a look. What can we see on the RSI, that respective downtrend? We can see the RSI is coming up to potentially retest that trend line. For us to be confident that Bitcoin is going to swing back into these highs as opposed to break below this monthly uptrend, we would really like to see a 4-hour candle close on the RSI above that downtrending resistance. If we see that 4-hour close, that will signify to us that during this downtrend over the last 10 days, momentum has flipped back positive. Right now, we have negative momentum. The price action is on the RSI. This is representative of weakness, exhaustion, and negative momentum. However, if we're able to break through, it would signify for the first time in this entire 10-day long downtrend, we have actually flipped positive. Momentum is flipping positive. But this means more than just that. It means that the sellers into the $67,000 region are losing prevalence. They're exhausting. The sellers are starting to exhaust. That indicates to us that the buyers are more likely to step in and push that price action up to the range high. That is but one step of the equation. We need to also see this trend break. Remember, strength, tick off the RSI. We need to see the weekly downtrend break. That is a bullish trigger for a directional continuation. And structure, well, we have a triangular structure over here, and therefore a break of our triangular structure represents a directional continuation in the direction of which it does break. So at the moment, guys, on the 4-hour, on the charts, Bitcoin is hanging in there. It is looking weak. It is looking like it is exhausting, but it is hanging in there. It has still got a degree of strength. It has still got a possibility for a continuation upwards, greater than the probability of a continuation lower. The buyers have not stepped in strong enough yet to reverse the price action from these low levels. However, the sellers are not fully in control of the price action, enough so that they can break the price under what is proven to be a significant level of support at 67,000. I mean, we've been retesting this level now for about 8 days, and we haven't been able to break below here, indicating that buyers are stepping in at this area of crucial liquidity. Let's talk about the higher time frame impact of a directional move upwards. So moving over to an 8-hour chart, and we're going to go ahead and delete all these annotations just to make everything a little bit more easier on the eyes. What we can see, guys, right over here is we can see for a directional continuation upwards, we need to get those validations. First and foremost, we need to break over that downtrend. We need to break into this range high, okay? Now, what do we have here is going to be the 2-month-long horizontal consolidation. We take the depth from the range high to the range low. This is on the left-hand side of the screen if you're following. And we apply that to the directional breakout point. And this will give us a measured move of the channel that we are in, determined by the depth of the channel for a perceived target upon breakout of that channel. That could take us to 85,000. So again, a directional break upwards here would be significantly bullish for Bitcoin, but for us to see that, we need to get those short-term validations we were discussing. So let's now jump back down to the short-term time frame and discuss the bearish case scenario, right? The bearish case scenario is less likely. I'm saying it again. The bearish case scenario is less likely while we remain above the combination of 67,000 and that monthly uptrend. If we break below the monthly uptrend, the probability of us losing 67,000 to 66,000 increases, but it is really only when we break below that 67,000 to 66,000 represented by the dotted trend line over here, okay? And this box of liquidity at 67,000, this box I'm drawing out, is only really when we break below this level do the sellers have control again of the price action. So where would we expect Bitcoin to go to, and where would we expect Bitcoin to bounce? We would expect Bitcoin to travel back down to its initial lower high of which we broke out from. So if we look at this downtrend, we had a high, we had a higher low, okay, or sorry, a lower high, my bad, we had a lower high, okay, we had a lower high, and we had a lower high over here. Then we started developing our lows and our higher lows, and we broke through that lower high, starting that reversal to the range high. So that lower high now is going to be a trigger point, and more importantly, a massive bounce point, an area of confidence for the buyers if we do come back down and retest it. So if we were to see a breakdown under that 66 to $67,000 region, that monthly uptrend, we would expect a correction to 64.5, in which we would then expect reversals to potentially develop for Bitcoin. Again, guys, if we do zoom out to the higher time frame context, if we take a look at the macro context of everything that is going on over here, we are technically still in a bull market, okay, provided this uptrend is able to sustain. This is going to be our bull market uptrend. Provided we are able to sustain above this uptrend, we are in a bull market. This bull market uptrend has been lasting 7 months. If we do even come back down to retest it, we would technically still be in a macro uptrend. Now, this is worst case scenario. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. It is worst case scenario, but even if we did see it happen, Bitcoin would still be in a macro uptrend. So it's important to contextualize exactly what you are actually looking at on the higher time frame in times like this. Another trend I am really focusing on is going to be that daily RSI, that momentum on the daily RSI. Again, watching for a breakout of the RSI would indicate that we are going to see a break over that buy side liquidity and a continuation higher. On the daily chart, again, it isn't showing us signs of significant strength. We are not really seeing signs of significant strength across the high time frame charts when we're looking at the daily, when we're even looking at the weekly chart, right? We did close that weekly candle underneath the point at which we would like to have closed. So we're not seeing signs of significant strength here. But the important thing is that we are seeing those high time frame trigger points, these high time frame levels of support, whether it be that monthly uptrend, that $67,000 level, or whether it be that $60,000 pi cycle high level, sustain as a degree of support. And that is what is important, because as long as these areas of support are able to sustain, the price action the sellers will eventually exhaust, provided buyers are stepping in, and the price will eventually continue toward that upside. So regardless of what happens in the short term, it is important to contextualize the higher time frame and understand what these areas mean in terms of, buyers and sellers actually stepping in, and the overall strength associated with these levels, and how these levels, when shifted, when broken, can determine directional continuations in the direction in which the price action breaks through. So let's go ahead now, guys, and jump over to Bitcoin dominance. I think it's enough for the short term. Bitcoin dominance managed to reject on that short term from that uptrend again. We are still below the trend line. We are still good again. Provided Bitcoin dominance continues to drop and the total market cap continues to rise, we are very likely to move into an altcoin season. Again, for our altcoin season, there are only two prerequisites. One, Bitcoin dominance falling, and with falling Bitcoin dominance, we saw the total cryptocurrency market cap rising. If we get both of those two things occurring at the same time, altcoins progressively gain more and more against Bitcoin pairs, and we generally move into an altcoin season eventually if we see that extend for a period of time. Now, historically, we have seen Bitcoin dominance drop down to the 38 to 40% region in the past cycle, so we are assuming we're going to see a similar reaction in Bitcoin dominance in this cycle, which could add to the fact we could potentially be seeing an altcoin season. If we take a brief look at the prior altcoin season, we can see the structure is being followed to the T, to the letter. It is being followed. We are in phase number 4. Phase number 4 consists of the initiation of the bull run for altcoins, but it's also a phase where you'll see significant corrections for altcoins. We're talking 40 to 60% pullbacks for some altcoins during phase 4. Now, we've already seen that significant pullback phase. So it's unlikely, according to what we've seen historically here, that we're going to see too much more downward movement across the board. Now, there are going to be some altcoins that will drop 20%. We're talking about generally across the board for altcoins as a whole, based on what we have seen on the past. We are not yet in the parabolic phase. For us to enter the parabolic phase, again, we need to break above point number 1, what we saw over here. Point number 1, we broke up into parabolic, okay? 844 billion market cap is what we need to see the total 3 break for us to officially enter a parabolic phase. I'm going to leave the video there, guys. I'm not going to go into too much more. To summarize everything really quickly, on the short term, Bitcoin is showing signs of exhaustion, but this exhaustion is selling exhaustion. It is bearish exhaustion. With that, we have a massive reduction in volume and volatility, and thus we haven't been able to see the buyers step back in, or we're not seeing any indication of buyers aggressively stepping back in as of yet. It is the weekend. We have some major economic news coming up. Now, regardless of those two facts, the key levels that we are watching, the key levels of liquidity, which is 67,000 to 66,000, and our monthly long uptrend are still intact, and thus the probability of directional continuations upwards are greater than directional continuations downwards. With addition to that, what we can see is that the RSI, or the momentum, for the first time in 10 days is trying to flip positive, and we do see a positive momentum shift. That could be the trigger we need to see the buyers step back in with strength and push the price up to the range high. And when we retest that range high, it is almost guaranteed we're going to see directional continuations through that range high. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, guys. Be cautious, be aware, pay attention to this week. It's going to be a big one. We have some key economic events coming up, and we'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Cheers.